What if the most powerful weapon in a war isn't a missile, but a secret? A whispered order that sets in motion a perfect assassination, thousands of miles from any recognized battlefield. We tend to think of war as something fought on the front lines soldiers, tanks, jets. But that's only half the story. The other half is fought in the shadows. It's a hidden war of spies, saboteurs, and assassins where plausible deniability is the ultimate shield and the battlefield is everywhere. Tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on that secret world. We're not talking about declared conflicts or official troop movements. We're opening the case files on the operations you were never supposed to know about. From the vengeful ghost agents of Mossad hunting their targets across continents, to the CIA's most audacious plots to topple governments and reshape the globe. This is the real story of how modern warfare is waged, not with armies, but with secrets. Our first file opens in 1972 as the world watched the Munich Olympics in horror. The Games, meant to be a symbol of unity, became a stage for terror. A Palestinian militant group called Black September stormed the Olympic Village, taking 11 Israeli athletes hostage. The rescue attempt that followed was a catastrophe. All 11 hostages were killed. The world mourned. But for Israel, mourning wasn't enough. In the highest, most secret chambers of its government, a decision was made. The people responsible wouldn't see the inside of a courtroom. They would be hunted wherever they were, and they would be eliminated. This was the birth of Operation Wrath of God. Prime Minister Golda Meir gave the go-ahead, and a clandestine unit within Mossad, Israel's intelligence agency, was formed. The unit is called Kaidon, Hebrew for bayonet, and it's an elite group of assassins. Their mission was simple, but its execution would be anything but. They drew up a kill list of everyone believed to be connected to the Munich massacre, from the masterminds down to the foot soldiers, and then, one by one, they got to work. The campaign was a masterclass in clandestine warfare, a global manhunt that spanned Europe and the Middle East. It was patient, ruthless, and terrifyingly effective. In Rome, Walt Swider, a PLO representative, was shot 11 times in his apartment lobby, one bullet for each Munich victim. In Paris, the PLO's man in France, Mahmoud Hamshari, picked up his telephone. A Mossad agent posing as a journalist had planted a bomb in the base. It was detonated remotely, killing him instantly. Their methods were as creative as they were chilling. Car bombs, booby-trapped hotel rooms, close-quarters assassinations. This became their signature. Mossad's reach seemed to be limitless. They used their global network of agents, safe houses, and informants to track, isolate, and kill their targets. But a shadow war is a dangerous business, full of moral compromises. The hunt for vengeance can be blinding. And in 1973, in the quiet town of Lillehammer, Norway, it all went horribly wrong. The Kaidon team mistook Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan waiter, for Ali Hassan Salameh, the alleged mastermind of the Munich attack. They killed an innocent man in front of his pregnant wife. Several Mossad agents were captured, the secret operation was blown wide open, and it caused a massive international scandal. The Lillehammer affair was a brutal reminder of the razor-thin margin for error in this world. It raised tough ethical questions that we still grapple with today. Where do you draw the line between counterterrorism and a state hiring its own hitmen? Is it justice or just revenge? And can a democracy really hold on to its values while using the same tactics as its enemies? These are the questions that intelligence officers live with every single day. Despite the disaster, Mossad wasn't done. Their main target, Ali Hassan Salameh, the Red Prince, was still out there. For years, he was a ghost, slipping through the back channels of the Middle East. But Mossad has a long memory. In January 1979, after years of painstaking intelligence work, they finally had him cornered in Beirut. A female Mossad agent, operating under deep cover, parked a Volkswagen packed with explosives along a street Salameh always used. As his car passed, she hit the detonator. The Red Prince was dead. Operation Wrath of God sent a chilling message to the world's terror networks. The state of Israel will hunt you to the ends of the earth. There will be no trials and no sanctuary. But it also locked them in a cycle of violence and retaliation, a shadow war that in many ways is still being fought today. While Mossad was carrying out its campaign of revenge, the CIA was fighting a very different kind of secret war. This wasn't about avenging a single attack. It was a global struggle for ideological survival against the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the CIA became America's weapon of choice, operating far outside the lines of traditional spying. Declassified documents famously called the family jewels later revealed a shocking history of assassination plots, illegal spying, and covert ops to overthrow foreign governments. Officially, the CIA's job was to protect U.S. national security, but in practice, it often looked more like a project to expand American power, no matter the cost. Our first CIA file takes us to Iran, 1953. The country's democratically elected Prime Minister, Mohammad Mossadegh, made a bold move. He nationalized the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, taking back his country's most valuable resource from the British. For Britain, this was a threat to its crumbling empire. For the US, gripped by Cold War paranoia, it looked like a doorway for communist influence in a critical region. So, the CIA and Britain's MI6 launched Operation Ajax. This wasn't a military invasion, it was a coup from the inside, designed to topple a government while keeping their hands clean. The tactics they used became a blueprint for a new kind of war. The CIA flooded the country with propaganda, painting Mossadegh as corrupt, anti-religion, and a Soviet puppet. They funneled cash to politicians and military officers, paying them to turn on their own leader. They even hired agents to stage violent street protests, creating a feeling of total chaos. It worked. In August 1953, the manufactured crisis boiled over. The Iranian military, with key leaders on the CIA payroll, moved in. Mossadegh was overthrown and put under house arrest for the rest of his life. The pro-Western Shah, who had fled, was flown back and put on the throne as an absolute monarch. In the short term, Operation Ajax looked like a huge success. America had its oil interests secured and a friendly dictator in charge. But the long-term blowback was catastrophic. The Shah's brutal regime created decades of resentment, which finally exploded in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. That revolution didn't just overthrow the Shah, it turned Iran into the fiercely anti-American state it is today. The conflict between the US and Iran we see now, the seeds were planted back in the shadows of 1953. Our second CIA file jumps to the mountains of Afghanistan in 1979. The Soviet Union had just invaded to prop up a communist government, and the US saw it as a massive strategic threat. The Carter administration, and later the Reagan administration, decided to give the Soviets their own Vietnam. The result was Operation Cyclone, maybe the biggest and most expensive covert op in CIA history. The goal was to bleed the Soviets dry by arming and funding the local resistance fighters known as the Mujahideen. The CIA didn't send in U.S. troops. It worked through a proxy, Pakistan's intelligence service, the ISI. For the next 10 years, billions of dollars in weapons and cash poured into Afghanistan. It was a huge, complex operation. The CIA gave the Mujahideen everything from rifles to anti-tank weapons. But the real game-changer was the Stinger missile. These shoulder-fired, heat-seeking missiles let the Afghan fighters take down the heavily armored Soviet Hind helicopters that had terrorized the battlefield. The Stinger became a secret symbol of America's commitment to the fight. From a purely tactical view, Operation Cyclone was a stunning success. The Mujahideen, powered by American money and weapons, handed the Soviet army a devastating defeat. The war became an unwinnable quagmire for Moscow, and in 1989, the last Soviet troops went home. The CIA had helped bring down its superpower rival without a single American soldier dying in combat. But just like in Iran, the victory felt hollow pretty quickly. The aftermath was a nightmare of unintended consequences. Once the Soviets were gone, the US mostly lost interest, leaving behind a country flooded with weapons and ruled by competing warlords. That power vacuum was the perfect breeding ground for extremism. A brutal civil war gave rise to the Taliban, and among the foreign fighters who had flocked to Afghanistan to fight the Soviets, and who had been indirectly supported by the CIA, was a rich young Saudi named Osama bin Laden. The very tactics used to beat one enemy helped create the next. Operation Cyclone makes us face the darkest dilemma of covert warfare. Can you ever really control the fire you start? It shows the incredible temptation and the profound danger of using proxies and shaping world events from the shadows. The Cold War might be over, but the shadow wars never stopped. They just evolved. Today, we're facing a new, even trickier kind of secret conflict: hybrid warfare. This is the modern playbook for nations like Russia, and it blurs the lines between war and peace until you can barely tell them apart. Hybrid warfare isn't one single event. It's a constant multi-front campaign to destabilize a society from within. It mixes a whole menu of tactics into one coordinated strategy. Think of it as a permanent, low-level attack on a country's stability. It can be physical sabotage, like mysterious explosions at ammo factories in Europe that are supplying Ukraine. It's also sophisticated cyber attacks that target critical infrastructure like power grids and pipelines. The Colonial Pipeline hack in the United States, for instance, shut down fuel for millions. While that attack was linked to a criminal group, it's a perfect demonstration of the kind of vulnerability that state-sponsored hybrid warfare is designed to exploit, creating chaos and eroding public trust. A huge part of hybrid warfare is disinformation. This is the battle for your mind. It uses state-run media, armies of internet trolls, and AI-generated deepfakes to sow division, push conspiracy theories, and destroy faith in democratic institutions. The goal is to make a population so confused and divided that it can't agree on basic facts, making it impossible to fight back. This new kind of conflict is a massive challenge for democracies. How do you defend against an attack that's never actually declared? When a pipeline is sabotaged or a political party is hacked, it's almost always done with plausible deniability. Proving a direct link to another state is incredibly hard, and without that proof, a traditional military response is off the table. This is the hidden front of 21st century warfare. It's a grinding, persistent conflict fought in our social media feeds and our computer networks. It turns the very openness of our societies into a weapon against us. The old rules of war, built on clear lines between soldier and civilian, war and peace, are becoming obsolete. We're living in the gray zone, a state of perpetual conflict where the rules haven't been written yet. From the targeted killings of Mossad to the world-shaking coups of the CIA, and now to the creeping infection of hybrid warfare, conflict has always had a hidden side. These secret operations wrapped in denial have shaped our world in profound and often terrible ways. They reveal the ultimate paradox of the modern state. The idea that to protect freedom, you sometimes have to operate in the dark, outside the law and away from public eyes. These case files show a world of deep moral ambiguity. They're stories of short-term successes that turned into long-term disasters, of enemies who were defeated only to create new, more dangerous ones in their place. They force us to ask some really uncomfortable questions. What's the true cost of security when it's bought in the shadows? Can a nation stay a democracy when it wages secret wars accountable to no one? The line between being a protector and a perpetrator, between a justified act of national security and a simple political murder, is terrifyingly thin. The shadow war isn't over. The tactics will keep changing with new technology and new politics. But the fundamental dilemma will always be there. So, we'll leave you with this thought. In a world of hidden wars, who is watching the watchers? If you found this deep dive into the world of covert operations compelling, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next investigation. And let us know in the comments. What secret operation, what hidden piece of history should we pull from the shadows next? Thanks for watching.